in the Washington Post, covers the Mystics and women's basketball, Terps, all of it. What's up, Cope? How you doing, bud?
What up, fellas? Thanks for having me on. How's it going?
What's up, Kareem? How you been, man?
Good. I'm tired. Starting vacation today.
Yeah, I bet.
That's it.
Has any team ever had 3 of the top 6?
I don't believe so. I've had to go back and look at every year, but I mean, I know I know there's been 2, but 3 of the top 6, I don't believe so. Not as far as my research, but you know, I might have to dig in a little bit deeper.
All right. So I wanted the Wizards to trade up for Beckers with 3 of the top 6. They obviously didn't do that. Then I wanted them to trade up for the Victoria Wembanyama Malanga. They obviously didn't do that. Before we get to the Mystics picks, how good is Beckers? And then what is up with who could Malanga be?
Well, Beckers is the truth, and probably the most efficient player that came out of college last year. You know, National Player of the Year as a freshman. The only thing that ever really slowed her down was some knee injuries that took her out about a season and a half. But besides that, remember, people were talking about her like Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark got going. And I still would say, I mean, Caitlin is who she is, but at the same time, when Paige went down with those injuries, that kind of allowed a lot of the attention to shift towards Caitlin because she was kind of that player that everybody was kind of talking about at that point. So she's the truth, and that's why she's in Dallas, because a lot of people made a lot of offers to Dallas or tried to call, and they weren't interested in picking up the phone. It was all Paige all the way for them.
Okay.
And Malanga, I mean, she's only 19 years old, but she's 6'6", athletic, can play on the perimeter, can dunk. And so she's arguably got the highest ceiling in this draft of what she could be and what she could develop into. It's always tricky a little bit with some of these foreign-born players just because sometimes they have national team commitments and things like that. So sometimes that part is shaky, but the question is how fast can she develop and how quick can she get used to just the physicality of the league? But if you're talking about ceiling, she's as high as anybody in this draft.
All right. I mean,
yeah, Paige's game, she do it all, dog.
I watched. I'm gonna tell the whole truth here, left hand up style. I watched one Malanga highlight where she was not being defended, and she hit a drop step, spin move, dunk, and I said, trade everything for her, risk it all. But they didn't. So let's talk about what they did do. Talk to me about number 3 for the Sticks.
Sonia Citron,
3, 4, and
guard.
6, whatever.
Yeah. Well, Sonia Citron went number 3. Guard out of Notre Dame. Probably got overshadowed by Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo. And the thing about her is she's just that player that does a little bit of everything. An elite defender. She's got good. She shoots it efficiently, but at the same time, you know, you don't really have to run stuff for her. So she can be that kind of secondary third scorer where, you know, she gets a lot of points just off of back cuts and things like that. So you don't have to run your offense through her, but she's still super effective. It was, you know, quite frankly, probably one of the most underrated players in college just because she doesn't put up, you know, you're not going to look at her stat line and see, you know, 19 and 10 and 6 and be wowed in that way. But she's a super efficient 4, 5, and 4 kind of a player. And I think she was kind of hands down considered a top 5 pick. And it just kind of depended on what Seattle was going to do, quite frankly. And Seattle was kind of in a weird position where they're ready to win now. But I think even if Malanga has to develop for a little bit, there's just too much upside there to go to somebody who might be a little bit more, you know, W ready right now on this day. But I think Citron might be, as of today, you know, one of the most well-rounded players, you know, not kind of after Paige, but one of the most well-rounded players that was in college last year.
Well, and then when you go with the young lady Kiki from USC, I watched her in a game when Juju went out, and she just took over that game.
took over. That's the kind of player she is. Like, she's the truth. When at the end of last year, I was talking about her unquestioned as a top 3 pick coming out of Stanford. She dropped, I think, 40 in that opening weekend tournament game last year. Like, she's the truth. She's got everything you could ask for in a post. I'd say arguably, if not the best power forward in the game last year. The only thing that was really a negative was people wanted to see her extend her game a little bit, get that shot to start falling a little bit farther out towards the perimeter. And she does most of her work in the post. But a really smart player, pretty good in pick and roll situations, high basketball IQ, all of those kind of things that you want. The only thing that's kind of missing is you'd like to see that perimeter game become a little bit more consistent. But for this whole last year, even playing with Juju, you knew she was a lottery pick essentially the entire time. It just kind of depended on, where people kind of in front of her slotted. And I wouldn't have been surprised at all if Seattle decided to go with Kiki at number 2. That wouldn't have been a shock by any means.
Wow.
If they did that, you think the Sticks would have taken Malonga?
Oh, absolutely. See, now, Malonga is probably the perfect fit for the Mystics, considering they're a team who's looking 2, 3, maybe even 4 years down the road at this point. So you would think, hey, if it takes her a little bit to develop, by the time she's kind of ready to, really hit the ground running, that would be a kind of coincide with the time that Washington believes that it should be back in the kind of contending space. So that was the weird thing with Seattle is you're hoping that, hey, even if she doesn't contribute right away, that you've got enough to still contend. But for the Mystics, it kind of would have been a perfect fit as a player who's going to need a couple years with a franchise who's already looking a couple years down the road.
Gotcha. And talk to me about the third first round pick, the point guard out of Kentucky.
Electric point guard, can score. I think she averaged 19 this year. Pure point guard, super flashy. Somebody that's just fun to watch and plays with personality. The only problem is she's 5'6". And there was I do believe I counted last night, 6 or 7 players in the entire league last year that was 5'6" or shorter. And so that's the big question mark with her is will she be able to hang with the physicality of the game at this next level? But she's lightning quick and she's got a shot and she's smart in how she runs the show. It's just you start to wonder who she's going to defend. And if they'll if opposing teams will put her in bad positions that way, and will she just kind of get beat up a little bit by the physicality? But she said last night, "Hey, I've been short all my life, and that's been part of something I've had to overcome at every level," and she's done so far. But that's really the only knock on her is her size. Otherwise, she's an incredible offensive talent.
So.
Right.
A couple other things. Talking with our friend Kareem Copeland, covers women's basketball for the Washington Post. You can give him a follow at Kareem Copeland, joining us via the Rude Guest Hotline. Cope, the young lady from Maryland, Cheyenne Sellers, made it to the second round. Was that a surprise to you?
Huge surprise. I honestly thought that was where the Mystics might go at number 6.
I think you told me that, or somebody told me.
Yeah, it was just kind of depending on, because you knew Mystics were going to go a guard. It just depended on which one they ended up liking more. And Shy definitely slid. I think a couple things that kind of hampered her was she was dealing with a knee injury the entire second half of the season. And so that just kind of slowed her down, and she just wasn't herself. She honestly had to change her game, where she started working a little bit in the post and a little bit in that elbow area as a bigger guard, because she didn't have that same quickness and couldn't drive to the basket and plant in the exact same way that she did. And so I wonder if people kind of were worried about the way that knee lingered a little bit. But, I mean, she's a big guard that has filled every role for Maryland over the years. And I wonder if she got dinged a little bit just from the structure of the team this year, where she wasn't asked to score 15-plus points. She didn't have to. Last year, she led the team in every single category, but there was more talent on the team this year, so she had to do less. She facilitated more, and quite frankly, wasn't as healthy as she usually is. And so all of those dinged her numbers down a little bit. And I wonder if people kind of looked at that and said, and had a quite frankly, had a question of if that was more what you would see at the next level, as opposed to, really when she really signed and put up, kind of crazy numbers during her sophomore and junior year. But, big guards in this league that can handle the ball, that can play on the wing and guard multiple positions, those are valuable. So I think Golden State, quite frankly, got a steal, especially in the second round. You just need to get her healthy, and I think she's going to be just fine.
That's so left hand up. I'm going to confess something here. I don't know all of the logos for the WNBA teams. I kind of only know the Mystics. And I couldn't figure out what team had drafted her because I'm looking at ESPN.com and it just has the logo of the team. When is Golden State new?
Yeah. Golden State. This is their first their expansion team.
Oh, wow.
This will be their first season. So this draft was their first draft picks, and they're kind of in an interesting situation where I kind of believe so. After next year, a new CBA is coming, right?
Yeah, dude. So I wanted to ask you about that. I just read. I can't remember which player it was. I got to talk to Aaliyah Edwards over the weekend, and she was really impressive. But these women are now making more money in like the 2 months they play in this unrivaled league than they are in the W, right?
So it depends on who you are. But Unrivaled did kind of put together, essentially I look at them as a startup, and they had a whole lot of great financial backings this very first year that they kind of put all the way into salaries. And so they're honestly, quite frankly, putting a little bit of pressure on the W as they're in these CBA negotiations. And so what all the W players knew that the old salary structure would end after this 2025 season. And just last year, they also got a new media rights deal worth $2.2 billion. So with the new CBA, everybody's expecting salaries to make a significant leap forward. And so what every player did, I think there's maybe 2 veterans in the league that didn't do this, but anybody else that's not on a rookie deal, they set up their contracts to end after the 2025 season. So next year, you're looking at like 100 players that are going to be free agents, including every all-star that will be completely unrestricted free agents, because they all want to be able to sign a new deal under this new money. So that opens it up.
Big star is going to be a free agent next year.
Every big star who's not already passed their 4-year rookie contract. I think there were only 3 of them that signed. Even people who were signing extensions, they were only signing 1-year extensions because everybody wants to get a piece of that new money come the 2026 season. And so I think Golden State is kind of setting themselves up to be a major player in that, because if you're an expansion team in San Francisco, owned by the same folks that own the Golden State Warriors, you could go and make a run at a couple all-stars and say, hey, come be the face of this brand new franchise in one of the best cities and best markets in the league. We got a brand new practice facility and all the bells and whistles. So I think that makes them a pretty attractive team to free agents after this 2025 season. And I think they're going to make a big push for that. What is
that money going to be like?
They're making more money in college now, a lot of them.
Right. Like, dude, so like somebody like Asia Wilson, right, in Vegas, or who's a young woman that just drains threes in New York? Ionescu, right?
Yeah. Ionescu.
Like what kind of cash are these, all-star players going to start making? Are we talking 10 mil a year? I mean, you said it was a $2 billion rights deal.
We're not talking about going that high. Because you gotta, right now, I do believe the max salary for a single season right now is somewhere right around 250, 275, somewhere right there. Just under 300. And so the money's going to go up, but we're not talking about 10 million a year type stuff yet.
You got to have that type of backing for it to go up there.
They don't want to be paid the same as the NBA guys, but they want the same percentage of the pot. And that's the difference. And the pot and the W is obviously much less than the NBA. So it's not equal salary to salary. And none of them have said that, but they want the same percentage of what the pot is. And so that's the big negotiating point that we'll see in this. Quite frankly, they've already started, but it'll kind of continue for these next 12 months, it seems like.
Wow. That's it's all quite interesting. So do you think the Mystics did well with the three top 6 picks?
I do. I think they did as well as they can, as well as they could. I've been a big Tiki fan ever since last season. Sonia was just in that tier that it was impossible to pass her up. And again, she's not that flashy player, but that player that everybody loves to have on their team because it makes the entire team better. The big question mark is going to be Georgia. There were some other good point guards out there. And she's an All-American and played as well as anybody in college. But the question is, does her size translate to the league as well as some of these other point guards that might be a little bit more physically blessed?
We will find out. You are physically blessed, Cope. Thanks for the time, buddy.
Appreciate you, brother.
I'm trying. Thanks, fellas. I appreciate you having me.
All right.
It's our boy Kareem Copeland.